and welcome to The Courageous Survivor. Today, we're going to be talking about like connection versus like being true to oneself. Those are two things that we are kind of born with, and they are very rooted in our survival instinct. And so, understanding this kind of concept and how it applied to my life and how I got wired as a child and what that meant for the Paula that I became really kind of set the foundation for me being able to go back and kind of rewire things. Because I look back and there's so many things about my life, decisions that I made, everything truly from my earliest memories until age 48, 49, which I'm now 50, really kind of stems from this very complicated but basic thought, is that so we have our connection, so our attachment. We're very much beings of connection. We all want to fit in. We all want to be close. We're made for connection, whether you believe in, God. For me, I do, but spiritual connections, like there is just something about being married, having friends, all of that. We are born with that need. That is a survival thing. So then you have your kind of your true self. So being able to be true to yourself is how you kind of shape your life when it's healthy. And so when you have someone like me or people who are raised around trauma, addictions, family violence, mental illness, poverty, profound unhappiness and grief, like when you are raised in that type of home as a child, it can really truly start to have this like where there is a battle or a face-off between one's need for connection and trying to become who you are. So like listening to your gut instincts, like how you're kind of wired. And so what that kind of looked like for me is, I was raised with a dad who called me Porky, and there was a lot of like us being physically abused, and there was a lot of my dad speaking down on women, feeling, being told that, there is not a place for fat women, and, the skinny blonde, all of those things kind of made me not want to be who I was and to not know what I was. And so when you have children who are kind of raised in that environment, especially when you're told good children don't tell, if you want to be a good girl, you don't tell about what happened. You don't talk about those things. That kind of sends this message that I'm only lovable. And so this is like a subconscious internal type of thing. I'm only lovable when I'm doing things right. And so you slowly, as a child, kind of lose who you are, your own personality, because you start trying very hard to go to that survival instinct of connection. And so things that may not feel right, that may disturb your gut or cause, like a anxiety type feeling for a child, those feelings kind of get pushed down because you start having this battle of, well, I want to be loved and be connected. So you let things go perhaps even as far as knowing that something is wrong, your need to be loved, to be taken care of, to be, those types of things will take over that. And that's where it gets very hard, because we don't understand that, because once you get wired like that, it becomes so natural that you do it subconsciously, and it starts making all of these decisions in our life based on a very foundational piece of wiring in us that got messed up from the very, very beginning, and we don't even know it to unpack it. And so for me, when I was called Porky repeatedly and stuff, it kind of, I learned that it was that caused this tension in my attachment versus my true self. And so I didn't feel seen unless I was people pleasing, unless I was, I had to do other things for my dad, since I was fat in his eyes. And so when you start bending who you kind of are and what feels right, not being seen and accepted for who you are becomes sufficient. Like, I just, you just do what you need to do to be a good girl and to be pleasing to dad. And that becomes a thing where when you start dating and you're not comfortable with maybe intimacy and sex or being hit, this power for connection is more important to your survival than the feelings inside, that kind of that gut feeling, that feeling of this isn't right. You don't have to feel like this. And it really kind of just really wires you wrong. And so it kind of set up this part where after you do that for your whole childhood, it kind of sets it up that that's normal. And so I just continually picked people like my dad. And then to make it worse, when you don't have like those healthy type of connections, you get to be where those coping mechanisms happen. Because of that, you almost get proud of those coping mechanisms for not having proper attachment and for not having the ability to be true to oneself, because that is part of our survival instinct. So that's a subconscious thing. So in the back of the head, I had to realize, like, I used to be proud that like I didn't really have any like true connection. So like I had all of these very, very superficial connections. Like I would say that I had, all these friends. But let me tell you, when stuff happened, because I had this feeling of, that I learned from childhood, that you have to please, you have to do whatever's necessary. And if you aren't a good girl, then you aren't loved, then you aren't accepted, then you aren't pleasing. And so that started this thing of me just running, like just ending friendships, just ending relationships, to the point where there were I just up and moved multiple different times, just disappeared, because I couldn't handle, I didn't know subconsciously how to handle not being loved, because I was told, I was made to believe that I am unlovable unless I'm being good. Like, you can't let people down. If you let people down, if you don't please them, if you put your needs before somebody else, if you make that place inside of you that feels comfortable, that you're taking care of your needs before someone else's, then you are wrong. I saw my mom do it. I saw, it's like, you just please, especially living in a rural area, it was very kind of just said, implied per se, that it is the woman's job to, pay the bills. My mom paid the bills. She cleaned the house. She got us. I don't think I ever remember my dad actually taking us to a sporting event, to taking us to anything. It was like my mom did everything. And if she didn't, it was like, if something slipped, if something got bad, then shame on her. And my mom always had to bail things out. And my dad was just, some of the things that I had to hear. My dad had a business, and I very vividly remember a woman coming in to order like a door, and him saying that something along the lines of, go get the man so I can talk to somebody who knows what's going on. And I heard all of these things about these expectations of what women should look like, and what women should do, and that they don't know anything. And I look now at how, when it comes to anything, and this is something that I haven't quite rewired yet. It's something that I still have to work on, but it's this realization that when it comes to, like, I have never even actually tried to change my tire. I checking oil, being able to, like, it's like all those things that I was told that women aren't smart enough to do, I just accepted it. And so, like, I have to get better about going back and looking at those mechanical things and things that, like, weren't my job, because women are dumb about those things. And it's like, I just accepted that. And it's just weird how until I started kind of like clearing my head and working with a functional neurologist, and kind of being able to go all the way down and kind of start rewiring down to my, I don't know, I guess you would say my autonomics or my reptilian brain. I just look back and I'm like, holy smokes, about how much it influenced me, where I came out and made life decisions based on feelings, not facts, based on that need of not upsetting people, not making people mad, not being loved, not being accepted. And that was a very hard thing, because I still often do it. My boss will, I don't want to work. I don't want to work overtime. I want to work on my speaking and my business, and take care of my dogs and my garden, and I'm cleaning. Like, I love this life, and I'll have a whole day planned out, but my boss will call and need coverage, and I'll often say yes. And I don't want to. Can't tell you how many times I have told coworkers and friends, I'm not working any extra time. And for some reason, because he is a power figure, he's a male, and so I automatically go to yes. And then I want to kick myself, because I'm like, why did I do that? I didn't want to do that. But it comes from that place of what my very foundation from childhood. And so it's like, you have to go back and kind of rewire all of that. And that is really powerful to understand. Like, I think about all the stuff going on right now in the world with our presidential election coming up. And I'm glad that I am coming from that I've been able to kind of rewire my thinking from moving out of the emotional brain to moving to the rational brain. So when I have decisions, whether it's about a job that I want to take, whether it's about what someone says to me on social media, it's about what, any political office that I'm getting ready to vote for, money that I want to invest, anything like that, I ask myself, what are the facts and what are my feelings about them? And really be like, okay, this is who I want to vote for. Am I voting for that person out of facts or by feelings? Because it's super easy to be like, I don't like the way she talks. I don't like the way he talks. I don't like this or that. But it comes down to what is best for my freedoms, what is best for my rights, what is best for those things. Because I used to be very reactive to what people said. And I would get so upset. I don't do that anymore. And now I've gotten to the point that when someone says something to me or I hear it about me and it bothers me, I realize it's nothing about what they said. That is my internal alarm. So that is my authentic self, my gut feeling, whatever you want to call it, telling me that I have something unresolved, something that I need to work on. Because at the end of the day, if someone says like, oh, she's a piece of crap, she used to do this, she used to do that, why would I be upset if someone says that? I put that out there publicly. Now, if they want to lie and add stuff to it that I've done, well, that's on them. I can't convince anybody otherwise because people will believe what they want to believe. I don't care. The people who have rational thinking will be like, oh, well, she admits and talks very publicly about all of this stuff. Why would she not, why would she not admit that or whatever, or just ask her? It's funny because I have people who do say things and I invite them to come on to one of my live on social media or to come onto a podcast and like, let's talk about it. I can't possibly, like, I have huge holes in my memory, especially, from brain injury, from trauma responses, like all of this in protection. And I have never said I was a good person. There's probably a lot of people out there in therapy because of me. Just like I need a lot of therapy from stuff that people have done to me. I mean, that's the way life is. But to go out and say anything about those people, I don't. I can't control what anybody else does or says. I can only work on myself. I have to look deep inside myself and make sure that I am pleasing to whatever I believe in. So to me, at the end of the day, and this is me rooted in my faith, and I believe that every single person has their right to believe in whatever they need to. And I don't push my beliefs on anybody, but I personally believe in God. And I believe that I have a purpose. I believe I have a divine purpose. That is why I do this. And for me, at the end of the day, as long as I can look myself in the mirror and that I was true to myself, to my connections and attachment, and I was true to my who I am internally, like who I feel that I'm becoming to my spirit, and that I can say I pleased God, then that's all I need. And it used to never be like that. I just wanted to please. Like, I think about how judgmental I used to be, how I was addicted to chaos, how I picked people based on people just treating me poorly. And people say, I go to these trainings and people will talk about, why do they stay? Why would she not leave? Because their abusers and stuff aren't mean all the time. Matter of fact, it's usually quite opposite. If you know anything about the cycle of violence, there is this very, like, they're mean, and then there's this honeymoon phase where they're very, very nice, and then it's kind of like this, things kind of just go well for a while, and then it kind of starts back over. That period of them being overly nice feeds that attachment of connection, of feeling worthy, of, that gives you that part of acceptance and being seen and heard. Even though when they're abusive, you have been programmed. That kind of goes back to what I was talking about in childhood and where they're rooted. That goes back to, I just need to be loved. I need to put his needs before my own. You internalize that, okay, I'm only lovable when I'm doing things well. So it looks like, I'm sorry, it was my fault, I'll do better next time. And then you start kind of just more and more of giving yourself and who you are, and you lose yourself. You truly don't even know who you are. I look back, and a lot of the decisions I made, I'm like, why did I do that? I didn't know why I made decisions. I didn't know who I was. Like, I had absolutely no idea who I was, which made it very easy for me to be able to just kind of pack up and leave like I did. And so when you keep having to, bend on who you are to please the other person, you kind of just get to where you blend in. I was watching the Bridgerton series, and then the very final episode the last one that I saw, she talks about that, how, she started writing the little gossip stories basically to be seen. But she was always blending in, and she talks about being blended in kind of to the wall. And that's what happens to you. It becomes literally a second nature to just do whatever's necessary to not create chaos, to not create pain. And I'll tell you, that leads to personality traits, which I have had a lot of them that I'm changing. That when people would say, well, who are you? Like, those behaviors led to personality traits that I believed are me, that were me. I'm Miss Independent. I say what I'm honest. I say what I want. I speak my mind. And I would speak my mind with no fear of what came out of my mouth did to other people. And so The realization that what I inflicted on other people was really this bearing of my scars. Per se, people say, hey, hurt people hurt people. I was one of those people. So I had lost connection to myself. I never really even had it. It's not that I lost it. I never had it from the very beginning. So as I look back, it's like I started having all these coping mechanisms of not being attached, to being strong-willed. I'm independent. And so nobody had a say. And as long as nobody had a say, nobody could hurt me. And so then I really kind of lost that desire for connection. And it's funny because when this kind of goes back to why I make the decisions, like why I can't tell my boss no. And I know this, and I'm working on it. I'm getting better. Like, matter of fact, today I was asked to work and I put my needs first. But it's funny because if we're not made to feel important, I have never really felt important, that I mattered. So we start finding, seeking kind of significance from people pleasing. And I know that people pleasing syndrome so well. So, hey, I needed to pick up today. Sure. Because guess what? It gives a, oh, good job, Paula. I sometimes now when people will do that stuff, I almost visualize them patting me on the head like I'm a dog, like, good girl. And I see that now, like I put visualization so that I catch myself and I'm like, you know what? No. And so, and I do that so much, like, and I think about when I used to, even though I'm still a paramedic, like, but old Paula kind of per se, how she would just be judgmental and talk down to people and stuff like that, and realize that I don't know, it's just people making the decisions over and over and over. And here comes that part that is scary, and kind of understanding what trauma and abuse and all this does to the chemicals in our body and stuff, that when I would please someone, even if it's from a place of something that I don't want. So I don't want to work, but I say yes. I don't want to lend this person the money, but I do anyways. All of that stuff, but not being ready for intimacy, but saying yes anyways. Like all of these things, that when you do that stuff, you have this place in you that the pleasing kind of almost hits the same receptor, gives like those internal opiates, those addictive things like our endorphins, that it gives you that feeling. So you almost become addicted to people pleasing, if that makes sense. So it's an automatic response to say yes. And then when I say yes to working and he says, thank you, that endorphins of, my internal opiate or whatever you want to call it, saying, like giving me that good girl and that little bit of addictive high that gets released. And so I found a lot of ways to kind of rewire why I did those things, in chasing those chemicals. Now, you have your serotonin, your endorphins, your oxytocin, your dopamine. I chase rewiring those things. I take cold showers. I put to-do lists on my refrigerator. And, for my whole week, I did that this morning. I usually do it on Sunday. I worked yesterday. I went on my refrigerator. I make my whole to-do list for the week. Being able to go in and see those things being crossed off gives me that same feeling, that feeling of accomplishment, that feeling of pleasing. This needs done and I did it. It's kind of my own little, good girl, good Paula. And so it's me kind of rewiring those things. And I know that if I don't do those things first, those things need done this week. I prioritize my needs, my home needs, my girls' needs, before anything else. And that has been a really big thing for me, is being able to kind of rewire that. And so I think that understanding for me why I did all those things, why, how I got wired for being a yes, ma'am, per se, to not have connections. And one of the things that I do is when I train, I talk about how, I have 5 doodles, and how that, when I first went to get my dogs, when I went to go get my first dog, like I was only going to get one, I was going to get Emma first, and how like that first time that I held her, there was this thing up until I got those girls 2.5 years ago, that connection piece that we're born with, like, so there was like this void or this hole in me, and I can't explain it, but I think that I'll do an episode kind of more deep diving into that. But like, so it left this void. I never really had connection. I wasn't wired for connection. I got wired for protection. So I came up with all these unhealthy things. That piece of me was never filled. And so it led into trying to subconsciously try to fill that void of connection. And it was through food, working, exercise, drinking, reckless behaviors, being promiscuous, serial dating, like all of these things that I did, shopping, spending money, just gossiping, like all these things that I did, trying to fill that void. The moment I held that dog, the first time I held Emma, it was like this big crater inside of me was instantly filled. And which kind of led to this whole thing of getting Emma and Ava, and I now have 5, and it's like I look back at, I wanted to have a big family, and I just think about, like, I subconsciously have made that family that I always wanted to have. And I love those girls. I won't say I was a horrible mom, but I didn't do, I kind of passed that on. I was not in a place when I was a mom of having connection. So I therefore didn't give those things to my child. I was unhealthy then. And so I didn't kind of teach him about connection. And so I just look back at all of these behaviors that I did as a mom, and you pass those things on. My mom didn't have those things. My dad didn't have those things. So it was passed on to me. And so I guess in many ways, I'm learning at, 48, 49, and 50 years old, what it looks like to make connections. And so I prioritize like their care, their food, their grooming, those type of things, which is things that I never did for my son. And what a horrible thing to look back on yourself. And so we look at what's going on in the country, people trying to find connection, and you don't know who you are. I think I wonder how many people are like who I was and are trying, like, so foggy in the brain from all the trauma, from, trauma and brain injury and bad wiring lead to not really using your executive functioning very well. So people who are not thinking very clearly, making decisions out of feelings instead of facts, in that people pleasing, that I need attachment, that good girl, I need my internal opiates fired. So they will say yes and do things because they're looking for that attachment. And what that may look like are things that, you're very suggestible. So I, had friends who were in the swingers and open relationships and BDSM and all that stuff. And like, so then there were these things that, like, okay, maybe I can't attach because I don't like guys, I like girls. There was like all this confusion, all these things that I couldn't figure out. But I thankfully didn't have a lot of people on the outside who kind of influenced those decisions. But I wonder how many people, because it's shoved down our throat everywhere, I wonder how many people are making life decisions like that based on a place of feeling, needing to belong, not truly understanding who they are, not having that authentic self. This is what I want, and here is why I want it. I know in the deepest part of me that is who I am. And are making decisions based on being kind of wired wrong, or not having that very thing that we have for connection and being true to oneself because of the trauma that they carry. I mean, everybody has trauma. You can't get on the news, social media, anything without having just, my goodness, the world is crazy. And I think that we have more and more people being vocal about it, and it's everywhere. It's on social media. Like, you can't get away from it. And what that looks like for me now is, because I still have a long way to go. I will be working on rewiring this aspect of me till the day I die. And what that looks like for me right now is, I don't go out in public. I rarely go out in public. I like staying home. I'm working on myself, but I'm careful about being around people who would potentially influence me, that don't have the beliefs or the ideas that I agree with, people that are negative, because I was in a very negative place for a long time. And so I am trying to change to, I don't want negativity coming out of me ever. I want positive. I want to speak life and light into people. So I have changed that, and I am very careful about who I spend time with and all of that. I'm really working on myself, and people don't understand, like, you don't come out. No, I am rewiring 48 years of stuff. That takes a long time. And when it's an automatic behavior, it is too easy to get caught repeating behaviors that I don't want to do. And so until I start making these, kind of doing what I can do to heal at home and making those responses automatic, knowing exactly who I am, getting in touch with my spirit, and what God wants for my life, and who I truly am, I have to work on those things first so that I'm not influenced by the world. And that was a big realization for me. That has kind of probably been one of the biggest parts of being able to understand where I am in my life right now and being able to kind of set the stage for being able to rewire. So to leave you with something for you, if you are a survivor, if you had trauma in your life, is where do the majority of your responses come from? From who you truly believe you are. Like, does it sit well with your soul or your spirit or, that type of thing? Or are you making decisions kind of out of pleasing? Do you make decisions based on feeling or fact? And I do that every decision I make. I budget, spending, everything comes down to, is this a feeling-based thing or a fact-based thing? And where are you coming from? Where do you make your decisions? Start thinking about that. Are you still in a happy relationship? Do you love your job? Are you in your job because it feels right or because it's what you're passionate about, who you truly are? All of those things. Are you going from some automatic thing that you don't realize that you do? Or are you making your decisions based on fundamentally who you believe you are? So that's what I'm going to leave you with. And you can look at my social media pages. We'll be discussing more about this all week. Thank you for spending this time with me. And I hope that through my healing journey and my absolute nosediving into podcasts and books and learning about this subject, that we can come together and help each other realize and heal and come from a place of becoming our true authentic self. Have a wonderful day and be blessed.